Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast 123 Eyes on Me. Here we talk about all things education, what's working, what's not, and ways to improve the system. As always, the goal here is very simple: help the kids succeed. My name is Aaron, aka Mr. Jackson, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Representative Amos Quick. Amos, thank you for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for having me on this wonderful podcast, and what an important subject you cover. Thank you for understanding the importance of it. I'm Amos Quick. I represent North Carolina House District 58, which is in Guilford County, Greensboro, North Carolina. I've been in that position for 3 terms. I'm running for my 4th term this November. Prior to that, I spent 12 years on the Guilford County Schools Board of Education, 3rd largest school system in the state of North Carolina. 11 of those 12 years, I served as the vice chair of the Board of Education. Education has always been a focus of mine, even though now in the State House, it's not the only thing that I focus on. It certainly is one of the primary focuses of my tenure in the North Carolina State House.
Thank you for the introduction. So when it comes to your passion, if you will, of course, being a representative, there are so many, conflicts within. It trickles onto a lot of different things, but I do like how you have that background within the system, because a lot of people don't have that background, so they don't focus on that when they, come into a certain title of power. So to go ahead and get started, I like to play a little game with my guests. I call it 1 for 1. I'll go ahead and say one word, and I'd like you to reply with one word that comes to mind. So I have a total of 4 words. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. The first word is school.
Success.
Next one is students.
Future.
Third one is money.
Necessary.
And the last one is time.
Wisdom.
Wisdom. I like that one a lot. So when it comes to the time, you said wisdom. What were you thinking about?
Well, we have to be good stewards of time, and wisdom tells us that for the time that we have students in K-12 public schools, we have to be wise. We have to be good stewards of that time. It goes by fast. You talk to any parent and they talk about how they remember the first day they dropped their child off to a kindergarten or pre-kindergarten class. And then it seems like with the snap of a finger, they're going to a high school graduation. So certainly we have to be wise stewards of the time that the Lord gives us.
Definitely. All right. So within the education system, you said you were vice chair for a while, actually, and then you were essentially sitting with, the Board of Education. What is one thing that you honestly enjoyed while working in that position?
Attending the graduations, which was a culmination of all of our work. Throughout the school year, there were many peaks and valleys, but when we attended graduations and shook the hands of those students who had opened a portal to their future, who had done a tremendous thing for themselves and their families and generations to come by graduating high school. I think that the graduation ceremony, not only was it celebratory, but it was an opportunity for us to look back over the work that it took to get these kids across those stages. And so I always appreciated the graduations. I also equally appreciated the work that was necessary to get students to graduation, to have the partnerships between schools, teachers, administrators, parents, support staff, and the larger community. When it all came together and students were graduating from high school and going on to whatever their future held for them, I think that was, it made it all worthwhile. I used to say all the time, graduations would put enough gas in my tank to get me through another school year.
This is great, because this is not the first time I've heard this. People who aren't necessarily teachers, but they're, they have like a background role, if you will. They were very fond of graduation day because, as you mentioned it, you were helping those students get to where they needed to be. It's very important to note, because a lot of people downplay the passion behind people who aren't teachers. Like, oh, you're just in central office. What are you really doing for kids? You're just a board member. What are you really doing? But when you see the work that they're putting in, they are making a huge change. So let's go ahead and get into what you would change. What is a con or something that you really want to just get rid of altogether that you're not too fond of within the system?
Funding mechanisms that rely on people who do not always appreciate what the work that takes place in K-12 education. Seems like we're always begging for money to support schools, to support school personnel, and I don't like that at all. Although in North Carolina, K-12 education is the biggest budgetary expenditure that we have in the state. It takes up well over 50% of our budget is spent on education in North Carolina. However, it seems like we're always talking about and fighting for higher teacher salaries, higher administrative salaries, school infrastructure from the 1980s, throughout the 1980s to the early to mid 1990s, there was no school construction happening in our state. So now all of the school construction that we see going on is really catch up to what we lacked and what we failed to do in earlier years. We have so many school needs for infrastructure. Bonds are needed all across the state of North Carolina for infrastructure. Technology is outpacing our ability to fund technology in our schools. Our children come to school. I have a 3-year-old grandson who all I have to do is unlock my phone. He knows how to get on YouTube to find Elmo and Sesame Street. He's only 3 years old. He's not even in school yet. So these kids are coming into school already advanced technologically, and we're playing a game of catch up. So I absolutely positively would change the fact that we're always playing catch up, and much of that comes down to funding.
Yes, it really does go into where the money is going, how people are spending it, because money, there's a lot of power. I was speaking with T. Diane a while back, and she was telling me how when I said money, she said power. I definitely agree with that. It's not always a good thing. So it definitely, comes down to how people are going to use that. When it comes to funding, you said over 50% in the state of North Carolina is focused or going toward the education system. What do you think, and this is a large question, but when it comes to that, 50 something percent, where can most of that money go to really help out teachers?
Infrastructure to give teachers supplies. I think in the richest nation on earth, it is a sad commentary that teachers still have to spend money out of their own pockets to have supply for their classrooms. Also, if we want to attract the best and the brightest into our classrooms, and why should we not want the best and the brightest in our classrooms? We have to pay for that. Many teachers, although they are the best and brightest in their fields, they're making a sacrifice. They could go other places and make more money. And we've all heard stories about teachers leaving to go work at Home Depot, Lowe's, or some of the other big box stores as managers or such, and make more money. That should not be the case. Teaching is a calling. The successful teachers have something in them that's extra. Not everyone can be a teacher, but those who can and are effective at what they do, we should be paying and keeping them incentivized to stay in the classroom. Some of our best teachers, you mentioned central office administrators, some of our best teachers never want to leave the classroom, but the lure of the additional salary lures them out of the classroom into the central office. We should be paying to keep them in front of our kids, developing generations of future leaders, and then supplying them with the best supplies. Why is the best technology not in our schools? Why are we playing catch up with technology in 2022? It makes no sense to me. We've got the wherewithal. The pandemic has shown us several things. The pandemic has shown us that if we put our mind to it, we can do it. We can develop vaccines in record time.
I created this podcast to diminish all of those issues that are within the system. And I still stand by this. We're not going to get anywhere if we're all attacking different things. Over here, someone's attacking gun violence. Over here, someone's attacking parent involvement. At the bottom, someone could be attacking racial discrimination. There's so many different issues that we need to face. But if we don't all come together and tackle one at a time, we're not going to get anywhere. What do you think is the biggest con, in your opinion, that we should be facing?
I think one of the biggest cons that we have, and we see it playing out in a very, very negative way, is pitting parents against education and against educators, trying to dismantle the system brick by brick by saying to parents, they're not your children right, or they're not this. Certainly schools issues that they need to be concerned about. As an African-American male, I'm concerned about disproportionate suspension rates, disproportionate graduation rates. Those are things we should be attacking as a community. But I don't think it does anyone any good to set up this versus situation. Parents versus teachers, parents versus schools, the system versus parents. Because the truth of the matter, with choices, including homeschool, parents don't have to lend their children to us. And it's a big deal for a parent to encourage their child to be in school every day. And that needs to be honored. Now, we absolutely should have responsive parents. If a teacher sends an email to a parent a parent should absolutely respond to that. Or if a teacher reaches out and tries to help that child, the parent must play a part in this partnership. That's why I use that word very intentionally before. It is a partnership.
Definitely. Where do you think we need to start putting our attention? We, as in parents, citizens, board members, representatives, even the students themselves and teachers.
We have to get to individualized instruction. And that's going to take some more supports, some more personnel in our schools. Every child learns in their own particular way. And to have this sit and get one size fits all has been proven time and time again, it does not work. And we have to have individualized instruction. I like the way some school systems have gone to staggered start times. We know, having been teenagers ourselves, most teenagers, their minds are not working, ready to engage at 7:30 in the morning. So we've seen in school systems, including Guilford County, where we would stagger the start time. We would allow that the high school students would come in later and when they are more awake and engaged. I'm a pastor by calling, and one of the things, Pharaoh told the Israelites, you're going to have to make bricks without straw. Many of our teachers have been making bricks without straw. Now let's give them some straw. Let's give them all of the tools that they need to be able to have the successful outcomes that we all should aspire to and desire to have. Because listen, our young people will see days that we will not see. And all we are as leaders in this current environment, we are the current caretakers of this society. And someday we're going to have to hand it off to another generation. And we should all aspire that generation be as equipped as possible to continue to lead our society.
Exactly. That's what the education system is all about. One thing you really touched on was individualized instruction. That is very crucial as well. Partly why I left the system was because classroom sizes were too large. We can't focus on students and their specific needs if we have a classroom full of 25, 30 something kids. We need a better support staff because it's hard dealing with students. We're not just teaching them ABC 1, 2, 3. We're teaching them life lessons. They're going through domestic issues or they're seeing real world problems on the news. We need to let them know what's going on, how you can have a better mindset for these things. So we're really teaching them about life. Support systems or the support staff is not there because they're not getting paid. The messed up part is the money is there. We're just not spending it on the foundation. And I believe that is the teachers. When you're paying someone a dime for a dollar's work, what do you think is going to happen? Which gets into my last question. What do you want to accomplish within the next 6 months or even the next year?
Well, in the next 6 months, I have a re-election coming up, and hopefully the Lord will allow that I will be re-elected in this coming November. And should that happen, and I'm preparing that can happen and will happen, then I'll have bills that I will propose that will address many of the issues that we've talked about. Having pilot programs that we would have teachers assistant in every elementary school and every classroom on the K through middle school level, so elementary and middle school level. Reinstating the master teachers' pay and reinstating where teachers are incentivized to get more education and to have successes. That's being built on a adequate base pay. I will be pushing for a bond package, statewide bond package, so that we can have building projects. Not only will that help the infrastructure of our schools, but think about the jobs in construction and jobs in support of building these schools. That's going to help an entire community. We know in many communities, the school district is the largest employer in the district. So we have to have support. It makes good economic sense that the largest employer in your county is paying good and livable wages. That just makes sense because the money is recycled back into that community. And we have to start thinking of our K-12 education and public education as a whole as an investment, because that's exactly what it is. We're not only investing in the future, but we are investing in the now. When we pay adequate wages and have those supports and have all of those partnerships that I talked about throughout this podcast. North Carolina is fortunate and blessed to have over $6 billion, with a B, $6 billion in our reserves, in our rainy day fund. And we should, because hurricanes are going to happen, natural disasters are going to happen, and we have to have savings. None of us should be living, even in our own personal lives, without a savings, because emergencies happen. One of the reasons I'm blessed, and I consider myself to be blessed to be able to serve in this capacity, is because I believe God puts us in place to look, to care for. He makes us stewards. He makes us caretakers of all things so that we can, if we take good care of them, then the next generation and generations that come after that will not have to face some of the same struggles that we've had to face. And I believe right now is the time to invest.
Of course, yes. When it comes to the pandemic, no one wanted that to happen, but I think it was a good thing for schools because it shows where schools were lacking. It's harder to crawl out of a hole you've been digging for years and years and years than trying to escape the one that you fell into. As you mentioned before, in 2017, grades have been staying the same and they've been below, I think, what, 30%, 40% for schools. That's terrible. If we continue down this path, 10, 20, 30 years from now, we would have been the same or even lower, but it would be harder to come out of that because we're in a groove and thinking this is okay.
Yeah, I believe the pandemic did provide for us tremendous opportunities to re-examine the way we're educating children in North Carolina and in the United States. We could eliminate a lot of absences, and we could change the way we deal with suspensions because technology has put a tablet in every child's hand. And so let's say a student has to go to the doctor, to the dentist. Now they don't have to necessarily miss a whole day of instruction for that because they can have their tablet at the time they're not at the dentist's office. They can be doing work. So a student has to be removed from the educational environment for a misbehavior. Well, in order for you to come back into the learning environment, Amos, you're going to have to complete these homework assignments. You're not going to be allowed to get behind because of you're not in the learn, because we had to remove you from the learning environment. You're going to have to keep up with the class, and here's your tablet. So many things, many different ways that we can look at educating our students have come because of this pandemic.
Well, everyone, you heard it here first. That is a wrap for 123 Eyes on Me. Amos, thank you so much for coming out and having this time to really shed this wisdom on everyone. Have a good one. Take care.
All right, you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.